Hello, everybody. This is a Zoom support session to help you out with the HLTWHS002 unit, which is the Follow Safe Work Practices for Direct Client Care. So we've created this session because often the knowledge assessment is fairly self-explanatory as it works through the learner guide at the same time. However, most students find it the most difficult heading through the case studies in the application. And also particularly with this unit, there's you've got forms as one of the sections of the assessment, and you've also got some group activities. So I just want to run over those assessment pieces with you. So what I'm going to do is I'll get stuck into it. We're going to share with you the application assessment, which you'll see on the screen here. Okay, so like every other assessment, we just need your full name, your phone number, your workplace. So if you're working in industry, you need to put your workplace in there. If you're not working in industry or not working at all and just studying, then you can put real care training down, please. And make sure this learner declaration here is filled out with your name. Sign it, so you can either insert a picture that you've got of your signature, or you can simply type your name in here. And, maybe just head up and change the font to something, a little bit different. Oh no, something just a little bit different anyway. Maybe change the font size and make sure you date your assessments. Now, when you're dating your assessments too, can you date them in full? What I mean is full like this. So we don't want any, like last year, we've got all these assessments, 20. So anyone could go and, change the year on you there and make it any year. So just make sure your date is in full, and that goes for all your forms in any of these assessment pieces within this qualification. We really want to make sure that there's full dates everywhere. All right, and in here again, it's the time you used, researching and learning this unit, going through the learner guide and everything, and then the time to actually complete this assessment. Okay, so this section here is for the assessor, so don't worry about that. And you're more than welcome here to add any, additional comments if you want to comment on any part of the assessment. Okay, here's just some important information. Okay, so you can have a read through that. Now, I'll read out the first case study and we'll just, zip through the questions a little bit for you. Okay, so case study 1. Susan is a full-time experienced worker. She's been working at ATS Cares for the past 10 years. Recently, there have been changes to work rosters as the facility is currently trialling new task lists with daily work routines. All other team members' work is made up of short shifts. With the changes, there is now one team member short for the last hour of the shifts. With the new changes, Susan feels that this has increased the workload and has placed a lot of pressure on her and other members of the team. Generally, her team works well together and they cooperate to deal with the designated tasks. Susan feels the changes are as a cost-saving exercise for the facility, and she's concerned. She feels that the clients are missing out on quality time with carers and may not be receiving the level of care and services required. So what this question is asking you is, after reading this case study, you've got to list the issues for the clients and staff with the changes to the staff work roster. So if you like, you can break it up and, staff, and, you can maybe think of a few things there. And again, we're looking at what sort of effect, what sort of issues may come up. Because just for instance, you had 2 people working, say, a 6:30 to 2:30 shift, all right? And now, right till 2:30, you find that you're very busy and, you've got a lot of 2 assists and things like that, where you need 2 care staff on. And all of a sudden, your buddy is now finishing at 1:30. And, between 1:30 and 2:30, you've potentially need to take, clients to activities, or you need to toilet them or empty catheters or tend to them in any way at all. So you've just got to list some of the issues. Now for question 2, what are the potential stress and duty of care implications for the staff and residents? So if you like, once again, you can go, what are those? So when you're listing the issues for the staff here, what we need to know is what the consequence is for that. So the staff, for instance, may, feel very stressed and fatigued, for instance. Well, what's the implications? What happens when staff members are stressed, they're tired, they're run off their feet, they're sore? Correct practices going to be followed, manual handling. And same with the clients. If they've got issues, for instance, in your last paragraph here, she feels the clients are missing out on quality time here with carers. So if that's an issue, what's the consequence of that? How could that actually affect the clients? So then you just, match it up with the issues that you found and pop in here the actual consequences. What will be the result of those issues to those staff and clients. Here you need to list the options that may be used to address the issues with management. So if you were Susan in this instance and you have worked like this for now a couple of weeks and you're seeing all these issues and the consequences of the issues, how would you address this with management? What would be a good, way of responding? Would you head into the office and rant and rave to the manager, or what would you do? So that they'll take you seriously and behave professionally. What would you do? Okay, now we've got case study 2, which I'll read out again. Rachel is a client in a high care facility. She's a paraplegic with extensive personal care needs. Rachel is morbidly obese, so that means extremely obese, and she needs 3 carers to undertake all transfers, manual handling and repositioning. A sling hoist is used for transfers with the aid of slide sheets to reposition her. The facility's policy is that there is a no lift policy. That's what the policy that's in place. This means that all transfers, repositioning and mobilisation is to be completed with the use of a mechanical lifter and slide sheets. So 2 people must be in attendance throughout this process. So what it's meaning here is that their company policy is there's a no lift policy, and for all repositioning, mobilising and using any sort of lifters or slide sheets, there absolutely must be a minimum of 2 people throughout the facility. But it looks like with Rachel, it's a three-person assist with Rachel. Okay, so the manager has received several incidents in the past few weeks as a result of some difficulties with Rachel, particularly when inexperienced agency workers are involved in the transfer or mobilisation. The manager has stipulated on the care plan that a senior worker must be involved at all times with all manual handling and transfers of Rachel. So we would assume that that means there's 3 carers for Rachel, but how management have changed it is that there must be a senior staff member there at the moment for all of her transfers to ensure the comfort and safety of Rachel and to meet duty of care obligations with workplace health and safety for both the workers to maintain their safety in the workplace. So question 1 is the manager's approach to address the manual handling problems presented by Rachel satisfactory, and do they meet workplace health and safety requirements? So that's just a yes or no. So the change is that now a senior staff member must be present when they transfer or reposition or anything to do with any manual handling with Rachel. Do you think that, is a good plan for Rachel and the facility? And now, if it's yes or no, discuss your reasons for your decision in here, okay, for question 2. Here, you need to list the correct procedures that you would use to transfer Rachel from her bed to the shower chair. Okay, so in here is actually about 12 steps that you need to list. So you can actually, as a bit of guidance, you can refer to page 74 of your learner resource, and it actually includes some pages there, use of a mechanical hoist to transfer a person, you know, from a bed to a chair, you know, whether that's a wheelchair or a shower chair. And in this case, it's to a shower chair. So you just need to refer to your learner guide. And also, the other thing I'm going to share with you, let me just stop that one, and I'm going to bring up the study plan. So you will have received a study plan when you started this unit as well. If you haven't received the study plan, just let your trainer know and they can email it through to you. So this is just a bit of guidance that you're actually receiving with every unit that you start. And it just helps to break up the units into 4 sections, because, you know, these units, they have to be completed within 4 weeks. So it's broken up into week 1, 2, 3, and 4. So this is just a bit of a guideline just to, you know, make it not so overwhelming for you, where, you know, you may want to tackle, you know, questions 1 to 24 in your first week, and maybe just do 2 case studies, and that may include Rachel. And this is your week 2, etc., etc. So the idea of these study plans is that here, see how you've got this, you know, watch these clips here. So what you need to do is, these are just clips that we find would be very beneficial for you to support your learning. So you just need to copy these links here into your web browser, you know, into Internet Explorer or whatever you used as your web browser, and watch those clips. And for this particular case study, okay, we've got all of these. So there's a whole lot of clips there. So you've got manual handling using a yoke hoist or a pivot hoist. So that's where a physiotherapist is actually going through the process of using a hoist. So I do recommend when you're tackling this case study, can you just watch these 2 clips at least, you know, just so you have a bit of an idea of what the case study is referring to when they're talking about using a full hoist with Rachel, okay, because it's good to be able to visualize it. Now, part of this unit of competency too, when you're working around this unit, or it could be a little bit later on, you need to book in with your trainer, because we offer a, well, it's compulsory in the qualification, but we run a 1-day manual handling session. Okay, so it's in our training rooms at West Ipswich, so you need to contact your trainer for further details. But, you know, put your name down if you like for the next session. They're from 9 a.m. to 2:30, and they're a really good session that includes all this manual handling, you know, using of various ranges of hoists, you know, falls recovery, in and out of car transfer, wheelchair in and out of car, slide sheets, and all those sorts of manual handling, that sort of manual handling equipment that you may use out in industry. Okay, so I've just got this case study back here again. All right, so if you refer to your learner guide anyway for question 3, and also please watch those clips in the study plan I showed you. So that will be on your email. Okay, case study 3. Mr. Clark has just arrived at ATS Cares. He is in the service for 4 weeks as a respite client. On intake, an assessment was performed and he is in poor health. He is coughing and experiencing problems with his breathing. He has several sores on his legs and they do not appear to be healing. The sores are excreting pus containing traces of blood, and the surrounding tissue is red and there is an odour present. When asked by the intake coordinator about his health, Mr. Clark has said that the sores have been there for quite a while and they're actually quite sore to touch. An appointment is made immediately for Mr. Clark to see his doctor. Now, following this medical assessment, Mr. Clark has now been diagnosed with hepatitis C. So with this condition, it would be beneficial to you to jump onto Google, onto a good, legitimate health site, and actually do some research on hepatitis C. So you actually understand how hepatitis C can be spread and like contracted. You know, so if you are a support worker, how could you actually contract hepatitis C from Mr. Clark? All right. So, you know, basically it is through, you know, blood and bodily fluids, but we would really like you to do a bit of research on that because it will help you in answering these questions. So here we need to list the types of information that should be recorded on Mr. Clark's care plan that needs to be shared with the support staff regarding his condition. All right, so with this first one, you need to list, now that they know he's got hepatitis C, what sort of information do you think the care staff working alongside him, you know, personal cares and everything. So, you know, they are definitely going to have a lot of skin-to-skin contact. What sort of information should the care plan state, and what information should be passed on to the care staff working with him? So that's a little bit more of the basic, you know, a basic outline there. With question 2, you're actually going into a little bit more detail. So we need to list the infection control measures that will be used to meet infection control requirements. So now that Mr. Clark has been diagnosed with hepatitis C, what sort of measures does the facility need to put in place now to keep other residents, to begin with, from contracting hepatitis C, and also to stop the staff members from contracting hepatitis C? Okay, so for instance, do you think it's just general cleaning here? All right, what happens when his clothes and bed linen that potentially has blood and pus and bodily fluids on it, does that just get put into the general, you know, laundry cycle, or what? What needs to be put in place? What happens if you've got new staff or agency staff, okay, that may not look at Mr. Clark's care plan before the start of shift, or, you know, there's not a really good handover, and they see some PPE, you know, outside his room, but they go, all right, you know, we've got to go in and get this done. I'll find out what he's got done, or what he's got. I'm sure he'll tell me. They go into the room, you know, they have some contact with him. What would stop those people? What would stop them at the door from entering any further, you know, without taking any precautions? Okay, now, do you think it would just be simple old gloves here, or do you think other additional precautions would need to be used here? Okay, because you've got your standard precautions, okay, which is just, you know, standard infection control, you know, good old hand washing and, you know, wearing gloves with personal hygiene, toileting and things like that. But these are talking about additional infection control measures. What else? You know, when, for instance, now we've, you know, you've got the flu going around, what can staff go and get to try and reduce the chances of, you know, you contracting the flu off your residents too? That can actually possibly be used here with the hepatitis C. Okay, so yeah, that's where you need to just look at all those different measures that need to be put in place to keep everyone safe there. Okay. Now, case study 4, you've got Carolyn is a client of ATS Care's facility. You have escorted Carolyn to the dining room to have breakfast with other clients. Your next task is to complete general housekeeping of her room and to make her bed and change the linen. You have noticed that there is a smell in the room. Following an investigation, you find a tub of yogurt hidden at the back of her bedside set of drawers. The lid has been opened and the container is half filled, and now the smell is quite offensive. So firstly, you need to discuss the cleaning routine that you will use to manage this situation. So if this is you, you've got to clean up the yogurt. You know, what are you going to use to clean up the yogurt? What are you going to put on? Are you going to clean it up with your bare hands, or how will you actually manage the yogurt situation here? And, you know, this is a very common, you know, form of you know, hoarding, I guess, where a lot of residents will, you know, take little bits and pieces, and sometimes it's food. They just like to have food and they may hide it, or, you know, forget that they haven't finished it and things like that in the room. So that's where you need to look at, you know, that this is potentially something that could happen out there. How will you clean it up? Now for question 2, you need to list the risk factors for Carolyn if she was to eat the yogurt. So what would happen to her if she ate the last half of that tub? Question 3, do you need to report this incident? Yes or no? Why do you need to report this incident? So if you've put yes, why do you think you need to report it? What's the problem here? How can you prevent this from happening again? So think about the team, and if just say if you're the only one that saw this yogurt, and if you kept that information to yourself, what could potentially happen in the future? Okay, and think about documentation and things like that. Okay, case study 5. Anya is an experienced AIN who works in a high care area of a residential facility. As she was walking quickly down the corridor to urgently assist another carer to turn a resident, she observed that one of the smoke alarms had partially pulled away from the ceiling. Okay, so question 1, list in order according to priority what Anya is required to do to meet the specifications of her job role. Okay, so the point here in this case study is that the smoke alarm has partially pulled away from the ceiling. Okay, now let me just pause this for a tick. Okay, apologies for that. I just got a call halfway through that case study that I had to take, so I've just paused the recording. So let's head back to the case study. Okay, so the idea here is that the smoke alarm has partially pulled away from the ceiling here. So it's not hanging or anything like that. So, and then it's important to know that your resident is really needing your assistance, you know, to help them turn. So you've got a buddy staff member there waiting for you. So, you know, there's a few different strategies here that you could use depending on your situation. You know, a lot of care workers in this sort of situation, they actually carry around either like a vocera, which is like a necklace that you can use to call other staff members. Some care staff are given like these mobiles that they cart around. So, you know, that's possibly something to consider. But you need to list in order according to the priority what Anya is required to do to meet the specifications of her role. So if that was you, and you notice the smoke alarm has partially pulled away there, what would you do? And the different order of those steps. Now for question 2, you need to explain what Anya needs to do to address the problems of the smoke alarm. Okay, so now that you've got the smoke alarm issue, you've got Anya. Okay, let's get back to it again. It's just happened again with another phone call. So really do apologise for that halfway through this Zoom session. All right, so continuing on, we just need to explain what Anya needs to do to address the problem with the actual smoke alarm here. All right, so this is step 2. So once she actually attends to the smoke alarm, how would she report it? You know, what sort of documentation? What does she need to do to let everyone else know that there is a bit of an issue with the smoke alarm? Okay, case study 6. Late on Tuesday afternoon, without warning, a severe storm happens, bringing heavy rain, hail, and strong winds. Most of the clients are in the main dining room having their dinner. Branches from trees have fallen and one has crashed through, breaking one of the glass windows. Luckily, no clients are sitting in that area. There's thunder and lightning that has started, and suddenly the lights go out and it's become quite dark and the vision has deteriorated. It is very hard to hear due to the thunder. Clients are screaming and you can hear crying. You hear a client yell, "I'm dying, I'm bleeding." Okay, so question 1 is list the identified risks in this situation. So here we need to list all the things that are going wrong here. Okay, what's, even in just bullet point form, that's okay. What are all the problems here that you're dealing with? Now for question 2, what do the staff need to do to support the clients to remain safe? Okay, so you've got to think about, you're going through here. First of all, you've got a person calling out that they're dying and they're bleeding. So what do you do about that person? Okay, you've got a tree that is crashed through the window here, like a large branch. Okay, so the building is insecure, there's probably glass everywhere and that. So who would you contact in that case? Okay, because that's, potentially quite dangerous, a dangerous situation there with the building. Okay, who would you contact? So there's a couple of different bodies that you would need to contact, and that's in that situation. All right, who could attend to that and who's in your chain of command? Again, you've got no lighting. If you've got the lights that have gone out, what are you going to do? Are you going to keep everyone, calm and quiet in the corner with no lighting? Because that may not work. People are probably really frightened here, depending on, their issues. They may have, cognitive disabilities here. They may have dementia, and who knows? And they may not really have an understanding of what's going on in their environment. Okay. And then the other thing to consider is, are you going to run around like a headless chook, or how are you going to conduct yourself, and what steps are you going to take to try and keep everyone, safe and calm? Now, question 3 is listing the forms that will need to be completed to report this incident. So all those steps that you took, right, what sort of forms would you need to fill out in this situation? And there's another something else to consider as well, is what if you end up, being able to attend to this person and it's not as major as, what you potentially thought or what the client thought, or you may have been, tending to that person on the instructions of the ambulance. Who knows? Is there a particular form that you may fill out depending on what action you took there? Now, part C is a portfolio of forms. So in this section, you need to fill out a client aggression incident report, a general incident report, a hazard alert form, a incident record and injury report, a maintenance request form, and a workplace inspection checklist. So if you're working in industry and you'd like to use your own forms, by all means, you can definitely use your own industry forms. So in that case, you would, tick this box here. So forms are available within your workplace, but just make sure that all of these forms are tended to. So if you've got you may only have 3 forms in your workplace, that's okay. Maybe use the other 3 forms that you don't have in your workplace in this assessment piece, and use those ones. So in that case, maybe tick both boxes. But if you'd rather just stick to the forms within this assessment, then please select no forms available in the workplace. So tick this box here. Okay, so this is your first form, just a bit of a rundown. This is a client aggression incident report. So what you're doing here is it's all simulated, okay? That's not a very good surname, is it? Make it Mary Smith. Everyone knows Mary Smith. Okay, so pick a client name. You could make it your own name. That's up to you. Put in a simulated address, 123 Forest Street, ABC suburb, whatever you want, or just, pick a random address. And here's what I spoke about earlier. Make sure it is fully dated, okay, with the full date, full year. Now you're going through, because this is a client has been aggressive towards you, okay? So this is where the form is asking you, what happened? Was there a trigger? What did you do? Were there any injuries? So that's where you're just making up a scenario that could potentially happen in the workplace. Was the person awaking from sleep and they got upset with you and went to, grab you or bite you, Here, were you injured? Yes or no? In your opinion, this is where was there a trigger? So maybe there didn't seem to be a trigger at all. Maybe there was a trigger, being woken up and the client wasn't ready, or pain could be a trigger, or the client was thirsty, or they had an infection or something like that. Were strategies used to address this situation? So when this occurred, as a staff member reporting here, what did you do to address the situation? What action did you take? Were the strategies used effective? And here you need to indicate the seriousness of the incident. So what was it? You know, was it just a bit of a grab, you know, no serious injury? Or, you know, did a resident really, you know, like throw a piece of furniture at you or something, you know, where it's quite serious, you know? Now, do you want to talk further about the incident? Yes or no? Put your name, a signature, position, and date. So your position is whatever you're classed as, you know, personal care worker, or you might be a support worker, you know, whatever your position is. Now, with these forms, with the manager use only, just have a think about whether you would fill out manager use only, considering it that this is asking you to be the staff member, the care worker here, reporting the incident. Okay, now this is a general incident report. So once again, it's just a simulated, come up with anything, you know, anything that could potentially happen. Did a client lose their wallet while they were out, you know, on a shopping trip, you know, on the community bus or something? And once again, think about whether you would fill out the office use only if you're a care worker. Here is a hazard alert form. So this is, you know, has got the potential to cause harm, right? That's a hazard. Anything that has the potential to harm or injure someone, okay? And it could be in relation to, you know, client aggression. That definitely had the potential to harm you. Was someone smoking, you know, not in the smoking allocated area? Were there pests? Did you cite pests, you know, in the building or anything like that? So explain the hazard here. What immediate action has been taken? And have you reported this hazard to your supervisor? And once again, you've got the office use only. Now, this one is a work-related illness or injury report. So this could be related to, you can make out that you are the employee, you are the volunteer, you are a contractor at the facility, or you're a visitor, you know, like a family member or other. Now, this is, you are filling this out as though you are the one that's been injured because of, you know, something that's happened in at the workplace. Okay, now please note that there's a bit of a typo here, this did of cessation. So that is date of cessation. Okay, so the, you know, the date that you ceased work because of the injury. And did you cease work? See, so did you and the date that you ceased, or otherwise it might have been minor and you didn't cease work. Okay, these are just all the information about the incident, you know, where was the person hurt, where were you hurt, and make sure you sign and date. Now have a think about here, this is the part B to be completed by a supervisor. So just think whether you would, if you're a care worker or a contractor or something, would you fill out the supervisor section or would you leave it for somebody else to do? Now this is a maintenance request. So requested by, you put your name in, or, you know, it's up to you, the location, the date, and just pop in a description of the maintenance request. So just think anything that needs repairing. Okay, with this form though, we would like you to fill it out in full. So maybe the action taken, you know, you could, you know, pretend that, you know, plumber attended, or, you know, whatever sort of action was taken to fix the maintenance, and repaired by, you know, well, Joe Blogs is a good one to use as well, and a date. Okay, with this one is a workplace inspection checklist. Okay, so you need to do a checklist of either, you know, at a client's home, which is a really good opportunity to actually do a bit of a risk assessment, but that's depending on your situation and whether you're able to do that without, you know, interfering with your duties with your client. But if you aren't able to do that, you can do it in, like you may go to the office sometimes in your workplace, or you can do it of your own home if you like, and treat it like it's like a client's home. So just put the location there, or it could be, you could make up an address just for privacy. Area inspected and inspected by, just pop your name in there. Now, this is where you need to go through, and it's just a checklist, which is like a risk assessment. So the floors have even surfaces, yes, no, and, any corrective action, that needs to be taken or has been taken. Okay, area is clean, tidy, and uncluttered. You could put no, and, moved boxes stored in hallway. Just sort of little notes like that of, what action, you can take when you find these hazards. Now, the office equipment, this is where you could treat, if you've got like a little study nook or something, or, an area at your client's home where you fill in paperwork or whatever, that could be your office area. So, are the cords poking out, or are they tucked away so they're not tripping hazards? And really, you're just going through this list. It's just and then checking your emergency equipment there. Now for part D, this is your group activities. So what you need to do here is hold a workplace health and safety meeting. Okay, so you can, get just a small group of people, like, another 1 or 2 other people. They could be other workers that you work alongside, or someone else in your life that you can use as a simulated workplace employee, and get together with them. And what we want you to do is actually sit down and have a meeting about this risk assessment that you've done. Okay, so you've got a form here which is exactly in line with this risk assessment. So if we scroll down here, you've got your workplace health and safety meeting. So the date of the meeting, who attended, were you the chairperson? That would probably be a good idea if you'd want to conduct the meeting. Now, this checklist here that you're going through is exactly the same as the workplace checklist in the previous form. Okay, so you're just going through this and you're working out, office furniture is free of damage. Yes or no. If it is an issue and it has been identified, is it a low, medium, or high risk? So that's something that you need to come up with, such as, walkways are clear of obstructions, so that could potentially be a medium to high risk there. If you're dealing with someone who's has difficulty mobilizing and walking around, well, that could be quite a high risk for them. Tripping hazard, they fall over equipment or boxes, whatever is lying around there, or there's cords, running across the lounge room floor to a fan or something, then that's a high risk. So you're going through that with your person in the meeting, and down here is where you need to put down any notes. So, to contact, plumber or handyman or whatever it is, that whatever action that you're needing to take to address any of those hazards that you found. Okay. Now, if we just scroll back up at the top of this form again, over to this page, this is where you need to, you've got an emergency situation and this workplace health and safety meeting. If you want to use the forms within this assessment again, then just pop in here, a little cross. No forms available in the workplace, and that means you're using the ones in this application assessment. Okay. Otherwise, you can hold a workplace health and safety meeting, in your workplace using your own forms, and that is definitely acceptable. Now, with your workplace health and safety meeting, though, we need some sort of evidence to say that you really have conducted this meeting. So, even if you can get, you know, maybe a short statement written from, you know, another person that was in the meeting with you, or, you know, take a photo of, you know, you with your small group, you know, just maybe you and one other person. It's up to you. Maybe take a photo. We just need some sort of evidence that you did actually conduct the meeting, and maybe just, you know, have the assessment piece there in front of you so we can see you actually did hold a meeting. Now, the other alternative to that is you are more than welcome to come into the Real Care training rooms and, you know, arrange a time with your trainer. We're happy to meet you in there at West Ipswich, and actually just, you know, give you the opportunity to hold a workplace health and safety meeting with us as the trainers. So, you know, that we are more than happy to do that for you as well, if that's a lot easier. Then you've got an emergency situation. Okay. So, you know, even if you want to make yourself the chief fire warden, and you may need an evacuation officer, someone who's going to handle the fire extinguisher, who's got control of the fire blanket. So it depends on what sort of situation you've got here. So is it, you know, like an electrical fire? That means, you know, someone would have, you know, been responsible for their fire extinguisher. But if it's an electrical fire, well, this would be not applicable. See? Okay. And then here you need to, so if you're doing this out in your workplace, and you're, or if you've conducted a emergency situation in your workplace, and just say you've got a, like a sign-in register as evidence to say that you did conduct an emergency situation, you know, semi-recently, then if you wouldn't mind, you could, you know, just forward that on to us as the trainers, and we can add that to the assessment just as evidence that you have conducted an emergency situation. And also include your emergency evacuation plan, which is the plan that's usually situated, you know, on the walls, you know, in your workplace. They'll let you know, where the exits are, where do you assemble, and it gives you, you know, you are here, that sort of information. So if you can just take a snapshot of that on your wall and forward that to us, along with the, you know, some sort of evidence, or maybe a letter from your manager to say that you conducted an emergency situation in your workplace recently, that's fine. Otherwise, you could conduct an emergency situation and video it for us and send us the video. That is fine as evidence. Or you are also more than welcome to, you know, contact us or contact your trainer and complete the emergency situation in at the Real Care training rooms at West Ipswich. So we do that for a lot of students too, who find that that is the easiest option. If you have any questions about these group activities and you're really not sure, you know, how to get the evidence or anything like that, just contact your trainer and we'll just have a bit of a chat to you about it. All right, so with this form, you don't need to fill out anything else except for the people involved and us as the assessors. Then we'll go through and mark that off and sign it. Now, lastly, you've got the unit evaluation survey. So this is on the back of every unit's application assessment. So if you can please, you know, pop your name in there and date it once you finish the assessment. And you're just marking here, what was your overall evaluation of the unit? If you attended face-to-face training, the training venue was, you know, you may have attended just for your group activities, or maybe not at all. And if you didn't, just pop a not applicable there. Were you provided with support from your trainer or assessor throughout this unit? So, did your trainer contact you in any way to offer their support or provide you with any sort of, extra materials, study plan, YouTube clips, well, this session here, that kind of thing. The communication provided to you from your trainer and assessor was poor, good, or excellent. How were the resources? Poor, good, or excellent. Were there any visual resources used throughout this assessment? So were you provided with any website links or any YouTube links? Just tick whatever applies. The assessments provided to you were poor, good, or excellent, and the assessment process was. So how did you find the two assessments and any activities required within those assessments? And then again, any additional comments you'd like to make about, the assessment or even the unit as a whole is definitely fine. Okay, so even though we've gone through this Zoom session, giving you a bit of help with the application assessment, we still want to make sure that you, reach out for assistance if you need to. If there's any questions that you need to clarify, or even in your knowledge assessment, you're really not following, what one of the questions are asking, please contact your trainer, because that's what we're here for, is to try and, point you in the right direction and guide you so we can rephrase questions and, offer all sorts of support for you. So I wish you the best of luck with the unit, and we hope to see it soon so we can mark it for you. All right. Thank you. Bye.